If disaster strikes tonight, are you actually ready? Most Americans aren't, and FEMA knows it. And here's why it matters. Natural disasters, grid failures, and even pandemics are no longer what ifs. They're when. Stick around because I'm breaking down 10 critical emergency items FEMA says every U.S. household needs, and a few extra survival tools most people forget but could literally save your life. Hey everyone, I'm David, a passionate survival prep researcher and gear tester who's been deep diving into FEMA's official disaster readiness plans, real-world emergency stories, and forgotten survival gear for over a decade. In this video, I'm going to walk you through each of the 10 items FEMA officially recommends for your home emergency kit, and then I'll share a few lesser-known but crucial add-ons that even FEMA doesn't include, but maybe should. Trust me, you don't want to miss number 9. It's probably the most overlooked but most necessary item on the list. Have you noticed any shortages or price hikes on emergency items in your area, like bottled water, masks, or medical kits? Drop your observation in the comments. It helps other viewers stay alert and prepared too. Item number 1, water. Let's start with the most important item on FEMA's emergency kit list, water. Without it, survival becomes difficult in just a couple of days. That's why FEMA recommends storing at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for a minimum of 3 days. If you've got a family of 5, that means 15 gallons of water, bare minimum. This isn't just for drinking. That gallon per day also covers cooking, brushing your teeth, and basic hygiene like washing your hands or face. It might not sound like much, but when the tap runs dry, every drop starts to matter. Now, let's talk about how to store it. The good news? Storing water doesn't have to be expensive. One of the easiest ways is to buy gallon jugs from your local grocery store. They usually cost around $1 each. You can stock up gradually. Just grab an extra jug or two during your regular grocery runs. Over time, you'll have a full emergency water supply sitting in your closet or under your bed. You can also store water in larger containers like 5-gallon or 7-gallon water storage cubes. These are stackable, reusable, and often come with built-in spouts for easy pouring. If you're short on space, they're a smart option. When storing water, always keep it in a cool, dark place, away from direct sunlight and chemicals. Avoid garages or sheds that heat up in the summer. Plastic containers can break down over time, especially in heat, which may affect water quality. Now, here's something important. Don't forget to rotate your water supply. Even bottled water has a shelf life. Experts recommend replacing your stored water every 6 months to a year. An easy way to keep track: use a permanent marker and write the date right on the container. But what happens if you're caught off guard and don't have water stored? In a pinch, you can fill up your bathtub as soon as you know a disaster is coming, like a hurricane. This can give you dozens of extra gallons. You can also fill empty soda bottles, pitchers, or pots. Just make sure whatever container you use is clean. Item number 2, non-perishable food. Alright, now let's talk about non-perishable food. The second item, FEMA recommends for every household's emergency kit. Just like water, food is a basic necessity we often take for granted until it's not available. FEMA advises that you stock at least 3 days worth of non-perishable food per person. If you've got a family of 5, that's 45 meals you'll need to have tucked away. Sounds like a lot, right? But don't worry, it's easier and cheaper than you might think. First, let's break down your options. Canned goods are probably the most accessible and affordable way to build up a 72-hour food supply. Think beans, soup, canned chicken or tuna, vegetables, chili, even canned fruit. Most of these items have a shelf life of 2 to 5 years, sometimes even longer if stored properly. They're easy to find at any grocery store, and you can slowly stock up just by grabbing a few extra cans during your regular shopping trips. Another great option, MREs, meals ready to eat. These are the same types of meals used by the military, hikers, and survivalists. They come fully packaged, include utensils, and some even have flameless heaters so you can warm them up without a stove or fire. One MRE usually packs between 200 to 2,000 calories, which is more than enough to cover you for at least 1 meal, sometimes even 2 if you're rationing. Best of all, they're lightweight, compact, and have a shelf life of up to 5 years. Now, if you're looking for long-term set-it-and-forget-it style food storage, then freeze-dried meals are your best bet. You've probably seen those big buckets at camping stores or online. Many of them offer 60 to 100 plus servings, and they can last up to 25 years if stored in a cool, dry place. Item number 3, emergency radio. Let's move on to what I consider one of the most underrated lifesavers in any emergency, the emergency radio. When disaster strikes and the power's out, your phone battery's dead, the internet is down, and there's no TV, how are you going to get information? That's where a good crank radio or solar-powered emergency radio becomes absolutely essential. FEMA specifically recommends having a battery-powered or hand crank radio, and ideally one that can also charge via solar power or USB. These radios are your direct line to real-time emergency broadcasts, weather updates, and alerts from the National Weather Service or local authorities. In a crisis, staying informed can mean the difference between safety and danger. Let me paint you a picture. When Hurricane Sandy hit New York City in 2012, entire neighborhoods went dark for days, some for weeks. Food stations, shelters, and aid stations were set up just blocks away from people's homes, but many residents had no idea they existed. Why? No internet, no TV, and they didn't have an emergency radio. They were cut off. Had they owned a basic crank radio, they could have picked up AM/FM or NOAA weather channels and learned exactly where to get help. Now, let's talk features. A quality emergency radio should have at least 3 power options. Hand crank, when all else fails, just crank it up and get some juice. Great for staying charged even if it's pitch black. Solar panel, leave it out during the day, let the sun do the work. USB charging port, ideal for charging it from a power bank, car, or laptop when you still have access. Some of the best emergency radios also come with built-in flashlights, emergency sirens, and even phone charging ports so you can power up your phone enough to make a quick call or send a message. Radios like the Voyager, Eaton's Sidekick, or the budget-friendly Running Snail are all solid choices. Item number 4, first aid kit. Let's face it, no one likes to think about getting injured during a disaster. But when the power's out, hospitals are overrun, or roads are blocked, your ability to treat minor injuries at home becomes absolutely critical. That's why FEMA puts the first aid kit right near the top of the emergency supply list. A good home first aid kit isn't just about having a few Band-Aids and aspirin lying around. It's about being prepared to handle cuts, burns, infections, sprains, and even basic wound care when professional help might be hours or days away. Let's break it down. At the very minimum, your kit should include adhesive bandages, various sizes, sterile gauze pads, medical tape, antiseptic wipes or solution antibiotic ointment like Neosporin, tweezers and scissors, pain relievers, Tylenol, ibuprofen, aspirin, gloves, non-latex, thermometer burn cream or gel. Now, let's talk about extras that can make a big difference in a real-world emergency. First, burn gel, because house fires, cooking accidents, and even heating water during a blackout can result in burns. Having something that cools and treats the skin on hand can help prevent infection and speed up healing. Next, make sure you stock over-the-counter medications beyond just painkillers. Think allergy meds like Benadryl, especially if someone in your family has mild allergic reactions, anti-diarrheals like Imodium, yes, it happens in disasters, and cold/flu medicine. If you or someone in your household takes prescription medications, ask your doctor if you can get an extra 30-day supply to store with your emergency gear. That can be a literal lifesaver if pharmacies are closed or inaccessible. And here's something many people forget: infection control. In a prolonged emergency, where you might lose access to clean running water, even a small cut or scrape can turn into a serious issue. Without proper hygiene and disinfection, infections can escalate quickly. That's why having antiseptics, gloves, and sterile tools is so important. Item number 5, whistle. Out of all the items on FEMA's emergency kit list, this next one might seem the least impressive. Until you need it, I'm talking about a simple whistle. Now I know what you're thinking. A whistle? Really? But hear me out. In a disaster scenario, especially one involving structural damage like a tornado, earthquake, or flood, your ability to be heard could be the only thing that gets you rescued. When your phone is dead, your voice is hoarse, and you're trapped. A whistle can cut through the noise when nothing else can. Let's go back to Hurricane Katrina. Many survivors were trapped in their homes, some for days after floodwaters forced them into attics and rooftops. First responders were moving through neighborhoods by boat and helicopter trying to find people who needed help. Some people banged on walls, others yelled themselves hoarse. Those with whistles, they had a clear, loud signal that didn't require shouting or battery power. Item number 6, dust masks. And next up is something that might not seem like a big deal until the air around you turns toxic. I'm talking about dust masks, or even better, N95 respirators. FEMA recommends keeping them in your home emergency kit, and it's easy to see why. Let's break this down. In a wide range of disasters, air quality becomes a major threat. Think about wildfires, earthquakes, industrial accidents, or even pandemics. Inhaling smoke, ash, debris, or airborne viruses can do serious damage, not just to your lungs, but to your long-term health. That's why something as simple as a dust mask could be a game changer. There are different levels of protection here, and not all masks are created equal. At the basic level, you've got your standard dust masks, the kind you might find at a hardware store or dollar shop. These are better than nothing, but honestly, they offer very minimal protection. They might help with large dust particles, but won't do much against smoke, fine ash, or airborne pathogens. Next up, you've got surgical masks, the blue ones we all wore during the pandemic. These are designed to protect others from your droplets, not necessarily to protect you from breathing in dangerous particles. They have a lot of air leakage and offer only mild filtration. Now, if you really want solid protection, go with an N95 respirator. These are specifically designed to filter out 95% of airborne particles as small as 0.3 microns, including smoke, dust, bacteria, and even viruses. The key is the fit. N95s form a tight seal around your nose and mouth, meaning way less air sneaks in through the sides. Item number 7, plastic sheeting and duct tape. Now let's talk about an item that might raise a few eyebrows: plastic sheeting and duct tape. At first glance, this combo sounds like something out of a DIY home improvement video, not an emergency survival guide. But don't be fooled. FEMA includes these in its official emergency supply list for a very specific reason. They can help you create a safe, sealed environment in situations where the air outside becomes a threat. Here's the deal. Plastic sheeting and duct tape are used to create what's called a shelter-in-place environment. That means sealing off a room in your home from outside air, whether it's due to chemical contamination, biological threats, or even radioactive fallout. Let's say, for example, there's a nearby industrial accident that releases toxic gas, or a freight train derails and chemicals are leaking into the air. You may not be able to evacuate in time. In those scenarios, having the ability to quickly seal off vents, windows, and doors can keep contaminated air out and give you and your family a safe breathing zone until help arrives or conditions improve. Here's how you use them. Choose an interior room with as few windows and doors as possible, usually a bathroom or laundry room. Use the plastic sheeting to cover all the vents, omniscissels, windows, and any gaps where outside air could enter. Seal the edges with duct tape to make them airtight. Item number 8, sanitation supplies. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked and honestly least glamorous parts of emergency preparedness: sanitation. FEMA recommends stocking up on moist towelettes, garbage bags, and plastic tacos, and while this combo might not sound exciting, it's absolutely crucial. Why? Because when the water stops running and the toilets stop flushing, things can get nasty very quickly. In a disaster situation, whether it's a power outage, a flood, or an earthquake, it's common for people to lose access to plumbing. That means no toilet, no sink, and no showers. And trust me, bad hygiene can spiral into bigger problems fast. We're talking infections, illness, and even disease outbreaks, especially if you're stuck indoors with your family for days. So let's break down what FEMA's really asking you to prepare for: moist towelettes. These are your go-to for staying clean when there's no running water. Use them to wash your hands, clean your face, or even wipe down surfaces. You can get big value packs at warehouse stores or travel-size versions for go bags. Alcohol-based wipes are best because they also disinfect. Think of them as your no-water hygiene station. Garbage bags and plastic ties. This is where things get real. When your toilet doesn't flush, you need a backup plan. The simplest and most common method is what preppers call the bucket toilet. It's exactly what it sounds like. Line a 5-gallon bucket with a heavy-duty trash bag, do your business, tie it off, and seal it. Boom, instant toilet. You can even place the bag directly in your toilet bowl if you prefer to sit as usual. Just make sure the water line is turned off. After each use, tie the bag tightly and store it outside in a sealed trash can until proper disposal is possible. Having extra garbage bags on hand also helps for regular trash, wet clothes, and isolating contaminated items if someone's sick. Item number 9, wrench and pliers. Okay, let's shift gears from hygiene to hardware, because FEMA's next recommended item isn't just about survival, it's about control. You'll want to keep a wrench and a pair of pliers in your emergency supply kit. Why? Because in many disaster scenarios, you might need to manually shut off your utilities, especially gas and water lines. And if you can't, you risk turning a bad situation into a dangerous one. Let's say an earthquake strikes your area and your gas line gets damaged. Or there's flooding and your water main becomes contaminated. If you don't shut off those utilities quickly, it could lead to a fire, explosion, or widespread contamination inside your home. That's where having the right tools ready to go can make all the difference. This is where a gas shutoff wrench comes in handy. Some homes actually have a shutoff valve right next to the gas meter. All it takes is a quarter turn with the right size wrench to stop gas from flowing. But most people don't know where it is, much less how to turn it off. Pro tip, learn that now. Walk around your home, find the shutoff valves, and make sure you know how to operate them before something goes wrong. Your emergency kit should include an adjustable wrench, useful for turning off gas or water valves, a solid pair of pliers in case you need extra grip or cutting power, a multi-tool as a backup or for smaller tasks around the house or car. And here's a bonus tip. Consider attaching your wrench directly to your gas meter with a zip tie or storing it somewhere nearby. Because when a disaster strikes, the last thing you want to do is go hunting through a toolbox or garage full of clutter. Also, don't forget that basic tools can come in handy for emergency repairs, like securing a tarp over a broken window, adjusting a generator, or even shutting off individual water lines inside your home. Most importantly, practice using them. It doesn't take long to learn how to shut off your gas and water lines, but knowing what to do ahead of time could prevent everything from minor damage to total disaster. So, while a wrench and pliers might not seem like survival gear, they absolutely are. In an emergency, they give you the power to protect your home, your safety, and your peace of mind. Item number 10. Manual can opener. This next item might sound basic, but it's so commonly forgotten that it deserves its own spotlight. FEMA includes it on their emergency list, and for good reason. The humble manual can opener. Think about it. You stocked up on canned food, got your 72-hour supply lined up, maybe even went the extra mile with hearty soups, beans, veggies, fruits. Great job. But when the power goes out and your electric can opener doesn't work, or worse, when you realize you never owned one, how are you getting into all those cans? A manual can opener for emergencies is small, cheap, and honestly, absolutely essential. Without it, your stash of non-perishable food becomes a very expensive collection of sealed metal you can't access. Now, let's get practical. Not all manual can openers are created equal. Some are awkward to hold, rust easily, or break after a few uses. When choosing one for your disaster food supplies, look for a sturdy stainless steel model that won't rust over time, a comfortable, easy-to-grip handle, a smooth cutting motion that won't leave sharp edges. There are also military-style P38 or P51 can openers, super compact and often included in MRE kits. They're great as backups, but can be tough on the hands. So if you've got arthritis or limited hand strength, opt for a traditional turning style opener. And here's a quick pro tip: don't store your can opener separately from your food supplies. Keep it right in the same bin or bag as your canned goods or in your main emergency kit. Because if you're hungry and tired and the power's out, the last thing you want to do is tear the house apart looking for it. Also, consider having more than one. Seriously, they're cheap. Toss a spare in your car emergency kit, bug out bag, or even your camping gear. Redundancy isn't just smart, it's survival common sense. And while we're on the subject, you may also want to keep a few sporks, utensils, or mess kits with your emergency food stash. Opening a can of chili with no spoon in sight isn't exactly fun, so yeah, it's not glamorous and it's definitely not high tech, but a good old-fashioned manual can opener might just be your most used survival tool when the lights go out. If you found this video helpful, give it a like to help spread the message, because you never know who might need this info before it's too late. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I've got more life-saving survival guides, gear reviews, and real-world tips coming your way every week.